Hi, I'm Carol Baskin, and this is the Cat Chat Show. Today with me is Bryna Donnelly. She came out recently to the sanctuary for a tour, and I found her to be so interesting and so amazing. I thought you guys would really enjoy hearing what she's doing. I only know a little bit about you, Bryna. I know that you were the Shelter Hero of the Year last
Uh-oh.
year for Animal Rescue Site. I saw that when I was researching you online. But maybe you can tell everybody what it is that you're doing now, and then we'll kind of go through that evolution of what got you to where you are now.
Sure. So I actually run a program for greatergood.org called Rescue Rebuild. It's an amazing program that we started back in 2007, where we're kind of like Habitat for Humanity. We travel all over the world to animal shelters, mostly here in the US though, renovating them. So it's super fun. You can volunteer for it. It's just a really amazing program that I'm fortunate enough to be able to run.
One of the things I saw in a quote was so interesting to me, which was that you kind of likened it to a cooking show because you have to get everything ready in order for the volunteers to show up and do their thing. So, can you talk a little bit about how you find the projects that you want to do and then what you have to do in order to make those happen?
Sure. Well, we do a lot of really highly varied projects. So for the ones that are the 1 to 3 day projects, which is what we won that crazy award for, we pulled off 48 in 5 months. So it was really crazy. I know. Not a whole lot of time at home. So when we did that, it did have to be like a cooking show because the volunteers could only give up a day or two of their time. And so we set everything out, pre-cut a lot of the wood for the projects, had everything set out at stations, and you just kind of showed up, did your 8 hours, and kind of watched the magic unfold. But yeah, a lot of pre-work goes into those smaller projects.
Wow. I can't even imagine trying to do all of that on the fly. And I didn't realize there were 48 of them. Oh my word.
Yeah, it was a heck of a summer. So yeah, we were very busy. We were running 3 or 4 crews. It wasn't just me trying to make that happen. Can only be in so many places at once, but it was really fun. We weren't sure if we could pull it off, but somehow.
So I saw that you are the director of Rescue Build, and then also it had linked you to Animal Lifeline. Is that a? Can you clarify for me how those work together?
Sure, it confuses everybody. So, what we have is Animal Lifeline was the founding organization for Rescue Rebuild. And so that's where it started. And then we started getting more and more public notice and bigger sponsors. And so we kind of evolved through our sponsors. And now that's how I ended up being at Greater Good now, is they were our huge sponsor for years and years. And it just made sense to kind of join forces with them and make it happen. But still a huge part of Animal Lifeline. I still sit on their board of directors. They're a really awesome organization out of Warrington, Pennsylvania that does so much for their community. It's a really cool organization.
I found a lot of organizations that had Animal Lifeline in their name and Lifeline Animal in their name, and so I was having a hard time determining which one was the original that you were involved in. So it's the
Oh
one in
goodness.
Pennsylvania.
It is, yeah, Warrington, Pennsylvania. I think when we went to trademark that name, they just pretty much laughed at us because there was it's like organizations with paws in the title. It's a good luck trying to find a unique one.
Oh wow. So give us the history. Like, were you born loving animals? Any particular animal? How did that first awaken inside you?
Oh, I mean, yeah, pretty much right from the start. I mean, my mom would tell you an awesome story that she embarrasses, any new significant other with me luring squirrels into my house with apples and peanut butter and her coming home to find me sitting on the dining room table with a bunch of squirrels and then them panicking as she freaked out. So yeah, it started young. Um, but no, it was never a career thought for me. I was a college professor for years before I did this, and then it slowly, I started getting involved with Animal Lifeline, and we would go into actually some of the nicer hollers in West Virginia helping animal shelters because they were so desperately in need. And it really grew from there. We started doing more and more projects on weekends and building, and I'd come in on Mondays and my students be like, "Where's my homework? Why isn't it graded?" And, so I would have to basically tell them the dog ate your homework, kind of teacher style. And it got to be so popular and so, just overwhelmingly busy that slowly but surely I stopped teaching and got the nerve to do it full time back in I think it was 2011. I finally stopped teaching altogether to do this full time.
Now, I would have thought, given the breadth of knowledge that just in the little bit of time that I had with you, I figured she's probably been doing this for like 20 years, since 2011. That's amazing.
I mean, we started the builds in 2007. I mean, both my family is extremely handy. My dad and uncle built houses the whole time I was growing up, so no, construction isn't a new thing for me, but it was never a vocational goal. I saw how hard they worked, and sitting there and teaching and grading papers seemed a lot better way to go. But here I am. Scratch that PhD. Who needs it? Let's go play with animals. It's way more fun.
Well, I think it's probably served you well, given that you are so articulate in this field, and this industry certainly needs more of that.
Yeah, I mean it's the biggest. It's the biggest thing I see. We just did our 100th build, and I think if I've learned anything from seeing that many shelters and being in that many places, it's just, I really love what you guys do, because you do look at it from also a business angle. And when I go into all these shelters, I see so many really well-intentioned and good-hearted people, but they forget that tragically you do have to run it like a business, or it's not going to succeed. You still have all those business-like needs that need to be met.
Some of the quotes that I saw in the newspaper articles was that you would say, the people that, depending on which shelter you were working with, you would say these people are so dedicated and they are there to rescue these animals and take care of these animals, but they just don't have the time or energy or resources to expand or to build the cage space that they need, or to do the infrastructure that needs to be done in order to make their jobs easier and make it possible for them to rescue more animals.
Oh, it's so true. I mean, most shelters are horribly understaffed because of resources, and you try to get a very good volunteer base to make those needs met, but it is rough. And it's like your house. I mean, I would never show you my house, because you'd think building all these awesome things that I would live in this really fabulous house. But my house is a construction project, desperate need of a rescue rebuild. Because we're so busy working and doing the day-to-day that, and shelters are the same. It's like their home. The honey-do list just gets longer and longer, and and then suddenly you need a rescue rebuild.
Cobbler's children wear no shoes. That became a cliche for a reason, I guess.
Yeah. What do you do?
So in 2011, you started with, was that with Animal Lifeline or with Rescue Build?
Yeah, so in 2007, we started at Animal Lifeline with Rescue Rebuild, and then by 2011, we had moved over. We worked for a while with Pet Finder Foundation. They were a big sponsor of ours. And then 2015, we moved over to Greater Good. So we've bounced around, I mean, it's challenging raising money, especially when the recession was really hitting us hard. And so, we would basically bounce to whomever could afford to spend money on these wonderful builds. And it's rough.
So in the early years of what you were doing, you were having to find sponsors who would put up the funds to be able to do these projects?
Oh yeah, we did it through GoFundMe's, we did it through Facebook donations, all the traditional ways that you see other rescue organizations doing it. That was the field we knew, and so that's how we approached it. And then, as I started thinking of it more as a business, I went for the bigger corporate sponsors. Pedigree and Mars have been a fabulous sponsor for us for years, Pet Finder Foundation, and of course, the animal rescue site in greatergood.com. We have so many wonderful corporate sponsors. We couldn't do it without them.
That is so wonderful to hear. People are I think more and more wanting to support companies that are giving back and that are helping animals, if it's an animal related company, or even if it's not. So there's more of that cause related marketing going on. In fact, I think later on today we have a meeting with somebody about cause related marketing, so that'll be pretty interesting to see what they have in mind.
Oh, I know. You really do have to kind of think outside the box. I know that's a horrible cliche, but I mean, I see these Subaru commercials with them doing animal stuff. So yeah, even completely out of what you think would be their specialty group, but who doesn't love animals? It's, I mean, everybody should. Let's not go there. But yeah, it's neat when you think of that. We kind of got involved with some of our sponsors by doing team building activities for them. I love doing stuff like that. I mean, anytime you can get people to volunteer, and I know it's hard when you have a family and you have a serious career and you're trying to make time for yourself in that, but it's just so rewarding volunteering. I try to encourage everybody, get off that couch, go give your time. If you can't give your money, or if you can do both, do both.
And it's especially beneficial, I think, to the companies involved when they have their own group of people working together, because while they may work well enough in a business environment, that is a totally different way of finding out about your coworkers and getting to know them on a more personal level and feeling that sense of community. So yeah, I think that we have a lot of groups that come out here and we'll do a work day or a couple of work days, but unfortunately, our work is hardly ever as interesting or satisfying as yours, because we can't let them near the big cat. So all they can do is like gardening. But with you, they can actually build the cages or build the structures that need to be done. So I think people would really love doing that.
Oh, it's true. But even if they don't get to play with the cats, my volunteers are always crying to me that they need more puppy time. Because we go in and you got to keep your eye on the prize. We're there to get a project done, not walk dogs all day. I mean, that's an extremely needed and beneficial volunteer avenue, but so it's really not terribly different. They don't usually get to play with the animals when they're working with me either. So I mean, but you have to let them see the excitement of, look what you're going to be able to accomplish at the end of the day. I thank you so much for letting us tour your facility. It was amazing to see how you make that all work in that space. Just amazing enclosures that you have.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. At the risk of bombarding you with people asking for your help, how do people find you? How do they know to go to you and say, hey, we really need to expand? Or is it something where you don't take solicitations, you go out and you look in the communities for areas?
It's a little bit of both. So you can go to rescuerebuild.org. That's our website. There's an application there not only for your shelter receiving a renovation, but you can also sign up to be one of our volunteers, and you'll get on our newsletter that says, hey, we're going to be here. You want to go there? So you can go to our website and get applications for both a build grant and for volunteering. But a lot of it is word of mouth. Friends. That's the nice thing about, again, having been in so many places. You meet so many cool people, and I really strongly encourage that networking and being able to pick up the phone and being able to say, hey, this shelter just had a massive flood. Could you consider them for a build? We do a lot of post-disaster stuff. We've done a bunch of shelters that have had fires. We've done a bunch of flooding. Couple tornadoes now. We've done actually I think we're up to 4 post-tornado builds. So we've done a lot. Did a bunch after Hurricane Sandy. So that's the nice thing about working with Greater Good, is they have a really great disaster granting program. So people will apply for grants for immediate assistance after grants, and then I can kind of cherry pick through those and find organizations that may need help that might not have thought of Rescue Rebuild. So kind of cool.
And it's not just in Pennsylvania, you're everywhere.
Oh yeah, we've been to Thailand, we've been to Puerto Rico, we hope to get down to Mexico this year. And then, the other 98 or 97 builds are here in the U.S. So been in every state other than Alaska and Hawaii. The two, of course, I would most like to go visit. So, if you have any connections out there, you let me know so I can get over there.
Actually, there is an accredited sanctuary in Hawaii. I think it's called the Three Ring Ranch. They're GFAS accredited. I don't know if they need any help though. I'm sure if you reached out to them and said, "Hey, you need help," then yeah.
That's true. It's very rare that you could call a shelter and be like, "Hey, would you like a bunch of free work and labor for a few days?" Very few people have turned me down.
I bet. Well, tell us about some of the projects that you've done.
The most recent, we were just outside of Tampa up in Lake Panasoffkee, Florida, helping a smaller organization that is doing amazing things. We built a new adoption center for them. I mean, it's pretty small. It's just a little, outbuilding that we had installed for them. We built them an outdoor catio, we call it, so that the cats can get some fresh air. Renovated 2 other buildings. Really, what we try to do is just make it easier for the shelter staff to upkeep and take care of the animals, and also try to work on enriching the animals' lives. A lot of times, the shelter staff is so focused on keeping a place clean and keeping the animals healthy that they sometimes forget to take care of the animals' mental health too. So we do a lot with enrichment, a lot of dog play yards, a lot of try to move cats out of cages, get them into colonies, get them that outdoor space so they get fresh air and sunlight. So we do a lot of that. The wildlife stuff that we've done is much more clear cut. We just try to build cages that will keep them in place. I was telling you about the fox cages that we've had to do in the past, and we worked at this shelter and they were like, yeah, you need to bury the wire. So we're thinking like dogs, maybe go down a foot, 18 inches, and they were like 6 feet. I was like, what?
I don't even know what digs 6 feet down. I mean, like, does a ditch witch go that far down?
Yeah, that's basically had to get a backhoe in there to like dig down and then put the fencing in and then push the rest of the dirt back in. It was quite a mess we made, but wow. They had said they'd had fox go under their 4-foot buried wire, so they wanted to go deeper. So, and then that screams to me the blending of the two thoughts with enrichment. When we focus so much on domestic animal enrichment, but for the wildlife, sometimes people don't think of that, and that's why I loved your enclosures, because you had those nice dens. You didn't see the pacing that you see in so many other areas. And I think that was probably the problem with the fox. They were just so bored in their enclosure that their excitement was to dig. And so maybe not usual for a fox to go down 6 feet, but apparently
you got nothing else to do.
Yep. So pretty cool. We've done some really, really cool projects before, but I really want to get more involved in the wildlife, which is why I came to visit you. So looking forward to that in the future.
I think the wildlife is probably harder to keep enriched because with dogs and cats, you can interact with them and you can throw the ball and you can pet them and you can do things to make their life better. But with the wild animals, you can't do that. And so you've got to find things that will entertain them that aren't putting the public at risk.
Yeah, or putting the animal, you had some neat ideas. So, sorry.
Speaking of dogs.
I was going to say, my dogs are enriching my mailman's life right now. Sorry. So when you think of the wildlife, oh my goodness, I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Sorry. I work from home, which is great, but then you have barking dogs when you have your conference calls and your meetings, so it adds to the excitement. But so for the enrichment for the larger animals, I mean, that's been a challenge because I've tried to think like, what would a cat do? What does a fox do in the wild? Like, how do you keep them, from basically going the wildlife version of kennel crazy? And, you told me, watch out for that pacing. I love the way the cages in your facility have not just always straight edges. That helps break up that monotony. I mean, it's little things like that you learn from every project that you do that's really kind of kept this all very fresh and exciting for me as we've been doing this over the last 9 years.
As my dad builds each cage out here at the sanctuary, he always learns something from the one before. So every cage is a little bit different, a little bit better than the one before. So I can certainly understand that.
Well, and I loved how you changed your kennel design or your cage design as you grew and expanded too, because, some of them we looked at, and you said this was just kind of over designed, and I was like, wow, we suffer from that a lot with some of the projects that we do. We have some nice pole barns that would probably stand like a Sherman tank assault because they were so over designed. So I like that. Keep it simple.
When you go into a situation, do you have to bring in specialists? Like if you're doing chain link and you've got a group of people out there that day that may not have any chain link experience, are you bringing in other talent to make sure that happens, or do you guys just teach yourselves how to do it and get it done?
Well, I mean, we actually started Rescue Rebuild. That was one of our huge things that we did, was trying to get dogs off chains in West Virginia. And so we started with fencing projects. And so that was kind of our specialty. And then we moved into concrete because of so many of the animal diseases. We try to get the dogs off of dirt as often as we can and keep, disease low. So we're actually, as we've grown, we've gotten to become experts at this, that, or the other thing. So I kind of keep around my really good volunteers that have the heart for this. And so, yeah, we kind of self-teach. I have volunteers that have been with me since the very beginning, and they'll be the ones that teach the newbies, so to speak, how to do things like chain link and how to pour concrete and how to design our pole barns and our kennel roofs and things like that. So yeah, the only time we really call in specialists is electric. Mm-hmm. Having done so many builds that have been after fires, most of those fires being caused by faulty electric, I won't touch it. I'm not a licensed electrician in every state, so legally I can't touch it. And that's pretty much it. Some states we have to have a licensed plumber. Others are, kind of proceed at your own risk, but we've got a lot of plumbing experience. Shelters always have drama with their drainage and with their water supply, so we've gotten to become pretty good at that too.
I didn't realize you had a crew of people that traveled with you. So I thought you were the person, the only person that was going from location to location, that you were having to bring together these people. So it's great to hear that you've got a core group that you can count on.
Our volunteer, I'm the only one who's paid, so yeah, it's all volunteer, but we just have so many dedicated people that come in, from all over. Just the last build that we just did by you, I had people come in from Oklahoma, North Carolina, South Carolina, Jersey, Delaware, Pennsylvania. Yeah, it's amazing how many people out there just really want to get into this and do animal welfare on a kind of different level. Maybe shelter volunteering isn't for them, but they love that they can do projects like this and then go back to their normal lives. It's really cool.
So many people ask if they can come to Big Cat Rescue and volunteer for a week and make a vacation out of it. And we're not set up for that because of the danger of working around these cats. But sounds like your thing might be something that people really could devote a week to getting to the location and doing the project and then getting back, so that would take up their week of vacation, and yet they'd be able to do something really amazing for the animals who are going to benefit from that project going forward forever.
Oh, we love having people come out. We pay for everybody's food and hotel. You've just got to get to us to wherever we are. That's why we have this huge list of volunteers, and because some are willing to travel from places like Oklahoma to Florida. We've had people travel with us to Thailand and to Puerto Rico. It's really neat. But yeah, we'll put them up in a hotel. We'll make sure they're fed, and the rest is it's just kind of, how hard are you willing to work? So some people will stay for 3 days and be like, whew, I'm out of here. And some will stay 3 weeks. Some of our builds are really long. So that's about the length of it, 3 weeks. I know that doesn't sound long when you think of how long it takes to build a house, but we work a little bit faster than the average bear, so to speak.
What do you see as the future for yourself in this industry? What do you want to do?
I always joke to my friends and say that when Rescue Rebuild is a household name like Habitat for Humanity, we'll know we've made it. When it becomes as popular to go build animal shelters as it is to, build houses for people, then I will feel like I've made my niche and done good by animal welfare, so to speak. So that's the plan.
Well, that's a noble plan.
We'll see if we can make that happen. I don't know how many more years I can keep up with all these volunteers will be. It'll be amazing to see.
I think things are certainly headed in that direction. People are becoming more cognizant of what animals need, and that they need more than just food and shelter. They need some thought put into how they're fed and sheltered.
Yeah. Yeah, I've seen, even since we've started in 2007, I've seen a huge transition. Just the animal legislation may not have changed substantially, but the actual, how it's enforced and people becoming more educated and aware of, what goes on in certain places. I mean, as much as I am a Facebook troglodyte, I'm terrible at it. Social media really has opened people's eyes to what goes on around the world and in our country. So, you have to be thankful for that at least. So it is cool.
Absolutely.
Love it.
What are some of the most I guess it's hard to do without a before and after picture, but describe to us some of the situations where you went in and at the end of it you were just like, oh my God, this was the best ever. As far as the ability to really redo something.
That's a tough one. So
is that everyone?
I know, you're like, and you don't want to be like, this was terrible before we got here and now it's so much better, because people making do with what they have is, it's amazing that they do as well as they do. I'd say the most remarkable ones though are the disaster shelters, something that has had a fire or that had a tornado. We did one in Guthrie, way back in 2011, I think that was, that an F5 hit this shelter, totally leveled it. And so, that was probably one of our biggest builds that we ever did. And just amazing. We redid all their fencing, put in brand new play yards for them, funded the construction of a whole new shelter for them. The FEMA money that came through wasn't enough, so they put the FEMA money into it, and then we helped finish that shelter off. And I mean, that just the pride that the volunteers had in what they were able to accomplish in those 2 weeks was, it's just amazing. And that's, I think, the coolest thing when you think before and after is when you see college students and you see people coming in who maybe have absolutely no construction experience, don't even consider themselves handy. One of the dearest people I've ever met, I met at our second shelter that we did from this last build. And she had never even painted before. And now she's like gunning to come with us on every build. She's just amazing energy. But seeing the people before and after, I think is almost as exciting to me as seeing the shelters before and after. The empowerment that people feel of like, I gave 2 weeks of my time and dear God, look what I accomplished in this 2 weeks. And that's just amazing to see. So very cool stuff.
I would love to see a reality show that just follows you around.
Yeah, it's been pitched to us before. Usually I get the feeling that what they're trying to do is turn my volunteers into Jersey Shore Part 2, which, where's the conflict? Where's the drama? I'm like, did Ty Pennington have to answer these ridiculous questions when he did Extreme Home Makeover? I don't think so. The animals are the story. The people who care for them are the story. But yeah, so we just haven't found the right fit for us yet. That's all.
I would, we get pitched with those kinds of stories as well, and we're like, you're not going to find a lot of drama and that sort of thing here. And I don't think that's what the public wants to see. I really think the public would love the feel-good stories and seeing regular people like themselves, getting out there and doing something that they never thought they could do and feeling good about it. I mean, all of those are just great reasons to want to watch a show, and I think yours would be so interesting because every situation would be so different.
Oh, it is. The new people that come out, we just had a great story at this last build where one of our volunteers who came out from Oklahoma actually somehow through, that 7 degrees of separation, there was a dog that came in. A veteran had lost 7 years before, and somehow she got hooked up with the story and then returned the dog to the owner from Florida all the way out to, I think, El Paso, Texas. So she recognized the dog in Tampa, got it out to El Paso. No
That's
idea how
amazing.
this all came to pass. I was building stuff and she like made this magic happen.
That's astonishing.
I don't even know how it happened.
Wow.
My headset is, can you hear weird echo?
No. Are you hearing an echo?
I am, but it might be my cold.
Oh. I feel so bad for you.
No, it's getting better. So when you have volunteers come down there, what do they usually do for you? They're usually fixing cages, or?
There's only about 2 things people can do when they're here, and that is because of, I don't know if we pointed out to you, but we currently buy a double galvanized metal panels, and so those never need to be painted, but all of the original cages up until the last few years were built with a single galvanized panel, and after about 6 years it starts getting rusty, so you have to take these wire brushes and scrape all the rust off and then paint them with Rust-Oleum, and you got to get down in all those little cracks, and so it's a real ordeal to do, and then you've got to pick up all of the shards from the rust and everything, because those little wire things from the brushes have to all be magnetically picked up, which means a lot of raking and digging and magnetizing. So whenever we have a work group come in, a lot of times that's what we'll have them do. We'll just move the cat out and let them completely renovate a cage. The only other thing that we have here that people can do safely is like tree trimming and planting plants and doing landscaping type of work. We've never let people build our cages because my father is such a perfectionist that everything has to be exactly level, and he would just have a heart attack if it wasn't exactly perfect. So there may come a day when we have to depend on volunteers to do that work, because he's now 74 years old, 75 years old.
Well, there you go. I don't know. My dad still travels with me, so you never know. They just, they find their niche, and my dad I don't think he'll ever stop traveling with Rescue Rebuild. He's hilarious. The kids love him. Oh my goodness, he's like our mascot.
I'm so sorry I didn't get to meet him.
Oh, I know. This is the one winter trip he didn't come on.
Well, maybe it saved him from catching a cold.
Probably. No, I don't know. Yeah, volunteering for you would be challenging, but I mean, we do a lot of landscape work when we travel around too, because you'd be surprised. That's certainly something that shelters need. You don't want your shelter to look shabby. You don't want stuff getting out of control and overgrown, and people kind of poo-poo it like, oh, whatever, it's not that big a deal, but it really is. Trying to make your place look good so that when people show up, adopters in my situation, or potential donors and people going on tours in your situation, it's incredibly important. So I'm sure you put them to good use when they're there, so that's pretty awesome.
We have oh, go ahead.
No, and then you have that wall that you're trying to put around the whole perimeter. I mean, I don't know if you'd trust volunteers to do that either. I mean, I would trust our volunteers to do that because we watch them like hawks, but boy, I don't know. That seems like something that maybe, you could get some volunteers to help with. That's not too close to the cats, right?
Correct. Yeah, it's at least 30, 35 feet from the cats. We have the reason I was asking you about chain link earlier, we have a project coming up. We don't know anything about chain link caging, but our bobcat rehab area is currently on the north end of the property, which is close to where they're building a hotel. And so we want to move it to the back end of the property so that it's further from people. And we have a huge area back there that's probably 3 or 4 acres that's it's on the other side of our lake. So you didn't even see it when you were here because it's so far back in the back. But what I'd like to do there, I think, is build the entire thing out of chain link, out of 1-inch chain link, because currently what we have to do is we have those 4x4 panels, and then we have to cover it with a finer mesh of wire. And rather than have that two-step process, if we had the 1-inch chain link, that would make it perfect. So it's something where I've been kind of debating how on earth we were going to do that, because none of us here know anything about doing that kind of work. And the land back there is not usable for any other kind of building, because whoever had the property before me had dumped a lot of concrete and then buried it, so you can't like put a post in anywhere. So it's almost got to be like a box that just sits on the ground, but it needs to be a really big, long box so those bobcats can run and hunt and, you know, strengthen all those muscles that they need to be able to go back to the wild.
Yeah, I mean, you could certainly do it with chain link. It's really not as hard as you'd think. I mean, when you look at your enclosures, the only thing that's different is with chain link, there's a lot more fittings and little parts involved that all have fancy names that seem to have no purpose other than to make people think that they can't do it. The hardest thing is ordering the stuff, because you're like, what is an end rail cap? You know, but no, it's really not that hard once you get the hang of it. And yeah, that's definitely something we'll have to keep it in mind. Maybe we'll come back to Tampa and help you build some chain link. We are certainly very good at it.
That would be great.
Yeah, so definitely think about things like getting machinery in there, maybe pull some of that concrete out. I don't know how disruptive that would be, or if it was even possible, but we have very strong young men who are also very capable of pulling things out. But we could do boxes. Wow, that was loud, sorry. We could do boxes to keep it elevated. It would look like kind of like a light post, you know. It's easier if you can get the posts in the ground, because then the fence fits more tight.
Yeah,
not very exciting, I'm sorry, but it is what it is.
I have the feeling from some of the places where we've dug that there's concrete going down maybe to the water table, like 9 or 10 feet down.
What were they doing back there?
The guy who had this property before me was digging out the dirt and selling the dirt, and then he was tearing down Kmart's, which is kind of like Walmart's. He was tearing down the Walmart's or the Kmart's, and then dumping the construction debris here, and then he just, you know, covered over it with dirt. And so that whole area back there appears to be just many, many feet of construction debris.
Yeah, you don't want to unearth that then. It's just going to make more drama for you. Yeah, well, that would be a good reason to try to find. They have hydraulic post setters too. But yeah, we'd have to just be creative about how you could plant those posts. I see a new challenge. I would learn something new. How do you get a nice tight fence when you have no ability to go into the ground? There you go. I could learn something new. It'd be perfect.
Oh, gosh.
I love it. I don't know. Yeah, we would love the opportunity to come down and do something, though. It's just what you guys do is so amazing. I wish there was more we could do to help you out, but you do have that cat problem. My kids would be like, those are scary cats. Yeah, they're used to things they can pick up and wrangle. So love it.
Tell me a little bit more about Greater Good. You said that they had kind of stepped in as your major sponsor. What kind of work do they do aside from this work?
My goodness, it's almost easier to say what they don't do.
Oh.
Their motto is people, pets, and the planet. So greatergood.com, the for-profit side, started back in the 90s by two men who, kind of saw a need to do this e-commerce that gives back, kind of charity-induced spending, if you will. I don't really know how to describe their amazing idea any better than that.
That's actually a really good description, and I've never heard it called charity-induced spending.
That's kind of how I look at it. And so they didn't even have a nonprofit wing for a long time. They started with the animal rescue site and a couple of other very targeted charitable giving avenues. We call them verticals for it's a business thing. I just try to shake my head at it as often as I can. But they do a literacy program. They have a hunger site. They have the animal rescue site. They have a diabetes site now, an Alzheimer's site. They do a rainforest site. Oh my goodness. All these different avenues that you can go and buy merchandise. And they're really cool because how they do this is they actually have buyers that travel all over the world, and they look for small villages that are looking to sustain themselves by making these goods that we then sell on the e-commerce side of Greater Good. And so it's kind of this like all full circle. We help the village then gets the money for the product. We then take the profit that we get from the product, and that goes into charitable giving. And so the programs got so huge that the two founders, Tim and Greg, actually had to start the nonprofit side just to administer all the money that they were getting from these products. And so it's just really kind of a very neat, well-rounded thing. And so I work for the nonprofit side. I'm just one of the many programs. Their literacy program and their grow program, they call it, are just amazing. They travel all over the world, funding schools, funding literacy programs in Africa, Asia, Afghanistan. They bought a bus so girls could go to school in Afghanistan without being harassed and, all the other fabulous things that they do to girls over in Afghanistan who try to get an education. Just amazing people in all sorts of different avenues bring it all together for the greatergood.org team.
What a great name, too. You couldn't have picked a better name than Greater Good.
Yeah, those two guys are pretty smart. Let me say, they have an amazing gift too for just finding the right people to fill all these different niches. Whether it's their buyers who are willing to spend 6 months of the year in India and Nepal and all these other fabulous locations. It's really neat that they find all these cool people to do their part and bring it all together.
I'd love to get to know more about some of those vendors, because we've had great success in our gift shop with products that were made in the Himalayas by people who the villagers then are protecting the snow leopards because they get a higher wage for the things that they create and then sell in zoos in America. And we've had a couple of small things where there was like jewelry that was made by some women in Africa, but I'd love to offer more of those types of products. Do you know if they work with gift shops to do that, or do they only do it through their own websites?
No, they have to do stuff like that. I know they do it with jewelry. I think they do it with some of the other merchandise too. No, I could certainly put you in touch with some of the buying team people and see what they do, because I remember we had these all company meetings, and I remember some crazy statistic like that greatergood.com is like 10th on the list of Nepalese exporters compared to entire countries. So
wow.
There's like the Netherlands, and then there's greatergood.com. So we do a lot with Nepal and a lot with India just because there's so many fine craftsmen over there. So yeah, I'm sure somebody in our team could talk to you about hooking up with our wholesale people, because they go over there and buy all this stuff. And so I'm sure that they would love to get the word out more and get that out there. These people certainly benefit from our buying of their products, so definitely great to do.
Well, I appreciate that. I would really be interested in providing products that are doing more good than just funding some sweatshop somewhere.
Yeah, Tim and Greg they're super cautious about doing stuff like that. I mean, there are silly things like, coffee mugs with ARS like branding on them that, of course, are not coming from, cute little villages in Nepal, but most of the handcrafted stuff that you see on there is from small villages and lots of women that, need some way to sustain their families. It's more challenging in some of these places for women to find work, and so craftsmanship is a huge part of their economy.
Well, how nice that you work with such a lovely group of people. And my computer's like, you're running out of memory. Oh gosh. Okay, well, we better wrap this up before it crashes.
There you go. I feel that way too myself, running out of memory a lot of days, so I feel your pain.
So is there anything that you would like to say to the people who watch the Cat Chat show before we wrap it up?
Oh, just thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me come see your amazing operation, and get out there and volunteer. If you can't do it at Big Cat, then there are certainly other wonderful organizations that would love to use up all that free time rather than sitting in front of the television. So,
and give us the URL for your website again where they can sign up to be a volunteer.
Yeah, it's rescuerebuild.org.
Perfect. Thank you, Bryna, so much for your time, and I hope you get feeling better really soon.
Thanks, Carol. You enjoy that warm weather, even though it seems cold. You have a great day.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.